Well, hello, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here today, and thank you to .org Source for being willing to invite me to be part of this presentation. I love the concept of 30 on Thursday because so often we get busy in our lives and work, and we just kind of need that bite-sized learning opportunity. So hopefully I'll be able to provide, with my quick speed talking, some ideas about what the trends are in the conference and event space. So thank you so much for having me. So a little bit about me. One of the things that I think is really interesting about our life, and specifically mine, as I'm sharing a bit about me, is that associations probably have always touched my life in some way, shape, or form, even if I didn't recognize it. From being a Girl Scout to playing soccer to being involved in student organizations in college, there was always some association behind the scenes, and I'm sure I'm not unique. Many of you on the call probably could say the same. And I think what's fascinating about that is we really do participate in these associations that affect the world. I know that one of my first internships in college when I was 21 was working for an association, and I designed my conference with my organization when I was just 21 years old and traveled to Memphis and got really kind of hooked and drank the Kool-Aid, as it were, on the conference and event space, but really specifically the association event space. Because what we offer, I think, is really special and really unique, and I am passionate and believe in the magic that happens when people come together to learn and network and grow together. It's a really unique thing that we offer in the association space. It's our professional home. And when we design it really well for our participants, for our members, our potential non-members, we really have the magic and the ability to influence them for their industries, but for their professional lives as well. So much of the work that we do and the way that we live these days, our identity is kind of wrapped up in work. And if we get to serve in a positive way our attendees and members at our conferences, I think there's a lot of wonderful positive impact we can make. I have a loving husband and a 9-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter, and I'm always looking at them, wondering where their passions will take them. I know where my passions are, and that's why I think it's so important to talk today about what these trends are upcoming in the conference and event space. But I'm not the only one in the association world here today. We have great folks on the call today. It's important to recognize this because the work that associations do literally impacts every industry and sector. Think about that for a second. We advance the industries by serving with programs, we influence policies, we do timely research, we provide networking and solutions that really strengthen the world we live in on roadways, waterways, hospitals, online, and really everywhere in between. Did you know 1/3 of all Americans are part of an association community in some way, shape, or form, whether that be as a member, as a volunteer, or as a staff person? Even on the call today, here, we have folks representing the emergency nurses, state bars, school boards, technology, agriculture, radiology, engineering, learning. The list literally goes on and on. I threw a couple of logos up there on the screen, but look at how diverse the industries we serve are. And in looking at this, I just want to say thank you for letting me be part of the work that you do. I hope I can shed a little light on the trends affecting conferences and events to hopefully make you do the best work you've ever done. So what are we going to talk about here today? Trends. So we're going to explore a lot of different things in the conference space, including technology. I mean, that is a huge one. It's not just affecting conferences, it's affecting the way we live, the way we work. It's really kind of omnipresent, but certainly is affecting the conference and event design space. We're going to look at experiential meetings and this new fabulous word called festivalization. I love how our vernacular and our vocabulary keeps changing. You know, we didn't used to have a social media manager as a job position 11, 12, 13 years ago, and now it's ever present. So I think it's really interesting to see how things are evolving. But festivalization, gamification, adding fun into our conferences, food, glorious food, yes, for all of your foodies out there, it is incredibly important to think about the food and wellness and health at our conferences and events. Our attendees demand it, the way they live their lives. We'll explore convenience and customization, the various subscription models and how they've changed the game. And we'll dive into a lot of other things about memorable experiences, the meeting space design elements and unique learning formats that still need to be looked at. We can't just lather, rinse, repeat from one year to the next. Otherwise, we look like a recycled conference and maybe as a result, a recycled organization. So there really are some dangers in not taking these trends to heart, even if you only implement one thing. Trying new things, shaking it up, and taking some risks is really important. And really at the heart of all of those things is the ever increasing expectations of the consumer. So let's really begin with the why it's important to stay on trend. And first and foremost, we already know if we do, the expression, because we've always done it that way. Well, those are some of the most dangerous words any organization can ever utter. Our personal and professional lives are ever evolving with conveniences and access. And because of that, our expectations and that of your members is at an all-time high. Just think about that for a second. We expect more and demand more in our own lives, and our members are the same. So Shep Hyken, who's a customer service expert, he's a speaker and writer. He's got a great new book out called The Convenience Revolution: How to Deliver a Customer Service Experience that Disrupts the Competition and Creates Fierce Loyalty. Kind of love that word, fierce loyalty. But this is really important to know, because in it he shares that our customers today have higher expectations than ever before. They no longer compare our organizations with a direct competitor. They're comparing us to the best service they have ever had, ever, from anyone. So focusing on the next time, every time, we could create a lifetime of loyalty, turning a first-time attendee into a lifetime one. So striving to simply just satisfy our customers and members is no longer enough. I'm gonna let that sit with you for a moment. This is a hard challenge. I'm not saying it's easy. And of course, everyone comes with their own unique needs and demands. But it is important to recognize that we live our lives, and everyone comes to our conferences and events with their whole self. We'll talk later a little bit about the human element, but remember that's who you are serving. You're serving someone who comes with a variety of different experiences, diversity, and they are indeed comparing any positive experience they've had anywhere, and they expect that of us. So it's important to think about serving those high expectations. And with that comes the importance of, I'm just going to minimize myself, sorry about that. The importance of creating memories through experiences. And really, this is inspiring attendees. And it's an essential part of how we deliver our conferences and events, because you can't just show up and sit in a dark classroom in theater style and expect there to be some transformative moment. We live our lives in such a way, and we expect that of the events that we attend. So think about creating memorable experiences by incorporating multi-sensory experiences. And what I mean by that is it does actually matter how attendees see, hear, smell, touch, and yes, taste your event. It really matters because the linchpin of our human experiences is stimulated by our senses, and organizations can create more immersive experiences, more impactful, and most importantly, more memorable experiences and events for their attendees. But this does cause us to take a lot of things into consideration. So think about this for a moment. In the room that you're sitting in, your office, at home, or at work, or how you have your bedroom or your kitchen at home, you surround yourself with color and light and scents, and you want to make it pleasurable for yourself. Maybe when you're at the gym, you want it loud and you're exercising and you like that intensity, but when you're home, you find a serene place. The same can be translated to the conference and event space. So, are you incorporating colors and pleasing visuals? Are you keeping the energy up with the appropriate background music? Calm, quiet when needed, and loud, energetic when needed. To keep attendees focused throughout the event, try incorporating different scents and aromas, such as lemon or cinnamon or peppermint. Disney, of course, has kind of the corner on the market on this, and for years they would, and they still do, I assume, that did the behind the scenes tour years ago, but they would waft chocolate scent into certain areas, and suddenly as a park goer at Disney, you kind of think, oh, I'm hungry, and then lo and behold, there you are going off to buy a $9 ice cream bar. But not necessarily on the money side of things, but certainly that feeling, when you have these multi-sensory experiences. So think about, are you providing places for folks to gather and mingle in a comfortable setting? Are your speakers properly prepared? That matters too, and that is part of the senses. What we're learning and hearing is part of it. If you have a speaker who's not prepared, that sure is going to fall flat and get those satisfaction ratings quite low. So think about all of these things. And deciding how best to feature all of these senses can be challenging, but even if you just pepper in a little thing here and there, it is worth it. And if you think about all these little micro decisions that you make along the way to influence how attendees sense your conference, the thought that you put into it will definitely make a positive experience for that. And as I already mentioned, you have to remember that attendees are a full person, just like you. And they come to your conferences and events with different needs and expectations. I had a professor in college who said, "You are unique, just like everyone else." And I love that quote. You think about your registration line and everyone in that line, and there's this need to get them their badge and get them going. But if we took a moment to pause and say, "Hey, you're a unique person, and you're here, and you're here for certain reasons today, to get value out of it in your own unique way, challenge you're overcoming with work or even in your personal life. Everyone is unique." So the trends we'll cover today all come back to that end goal of offering that exceptional experience and keep attendees coming back for more. It really is an exciting opportunity. Yes, there's some work involved in it, but I think it's fun work. All right, so what are experiential meetings? It's really important to delight and awe the brain. The events we offer now really need to wow and captivate and intrigue. If you look at different events like C2 or South by Southwest, these offer a blend of art and technology and creativity. Here in the Bay Area, we just had Burning Man, well, way out in the desert. And this is like a really crazy experience where people go out and do lots of different things, but it was rooted in creative art and freedom. And so nowadays we want to inspire the innovator, the maker, the creator. And we have events like Maker Fair where it's hands-on. We have escape rooms. I'll talk about gamification in a little bit, but people value experiences over the acquisition of things. I don't need a gift from you for Mother's Day, but take me out to a nice dinner or a concert and I'll remember that forever. So things like escape rooms or open mics, storytelling, where we open up the floor to our members to share their experiences, really makes for an experiential component. So think about how to do those things. And I leave this in here too, the delight and awe piece. Maybe there's something you want to withhold. You have your agenda. What if you have some surprise elements in there? Don't we all just love a little surprise every now and again? Hey, I didn't know that was going to be coming. So think about what experiences you can give folks. I just was talking with someone about early bird registration and the value of what it means to register early. And it's really just a transaction, right? You register early and you get a discount. But what more could you do? So if I register early and I give you my buy-in and I commit to attending your conference, 5 or 6 months down the line, however far out in advance you're doing it, what do I get back? What experience are you offering me? What value are you giving me by me giving you my time? So we offer some exclusive, hey, I registered early and now I get a sneak peek of the keynote chapters, keynotes book, their first chapter. Maybe I get some exclusive access or a free webinar. So what are the experiences, the add-on experiences that can really enhance the overall impression you're trying to give your participants? And this kind of ties in pretty closely with kind of festivals and gamification. So the Fast Company Innovation Festival, I leave here as an example because it's really interesting. It's a citywide event. I know it's a for-profit company, but it is worth mentioning because sometimes we can learn from outside our industry that this company or this event, they call it a festival. They don't call it a conference, which I think is definitely a change in language. And XDP that ASAE just put on said, get your tickets, not your registration. So it's really kind of changing the way you feel. Getting a concert ticket feels a whole lot different than buying a seminar registration, right? So I think it's important to recognize this, and I have a little stat to share with you. So according to the experts at CWT Meetings and Events, the rising of festivalization, try saying that 5 times fast, which is really designing immersive events that echoes some of the best parts of the consumer festival, is the focus, and this is the twist. We're focusing on co-curation and co-creation of the different sessions. So we have innovative workshops, visuals and venue design. All of these things are folded into it. And the Innovation Festival, as an example, goes into the city. They don't just stay within the walls of a hotel room or a convention center. It's very entrepreneurial in focus. So they go to the yoga studio, entrepreneurs, literally studio. In addition to getting to do a little yoga, they talk about, what are your operations like and what new tactics are you implementing? And I've seen associations do this too, right? You go to a conference and you get behind the scenes. You get to go back a house and you see where the housekeepers do all the things they need to do and what it really looks like behind the scenes. This is incredibly eye-opening. What are the venues that you go to doing to be sustainable? This is ever important. We have a green mindset. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to food. But what are these different things that we can offer? Similarly, as I mentioned about escape rooms, gamification is not going away. A little healthy competition certainly kind of stirs up that community and that engagement. You can learn from your peers. So what ways can we gamify some of our events? Many of us have conference apps and there's leaderboards and things along those lines. But what about scavenger hunts to go out into the city? I know geocaching maybe it doesn't seem that new anymore, but I haven't seen that many organizations implement it well. I've seen different companies pop up where they're coming into conferences and kind of organizing gaming. So for instance, if you have a large conference that has a diversified age, you have students maybe even doing research posters or something, and then you have the more senior folks. How can we get those folks to talk to one another? And when it comes to trade shows, how can you get those younger folks who feel like they don't have any buying power to get there on the trade show floor? Beyond just the passport and stamping it, what engagement and games can we include in that? There's a lot of different ways to think creatively about that. Okay, this one's the big one. Obviously, technology is moving at the speed of light, or at least it seems like it is. So I think it's important to pause for a moment and recognize that these technological advances are changing the game for us in the association space. So look at wearable technology. You know, these real-time devices have an opportunity to provide planners with sophisticated data, facial recognition. You know, how many of you on today's webinar use your face to log into your devices? This is a possibility for registration systems moving forward, and I think you'll see a great big trend towards that in the future. And really the idea is not to add technology for the sake of adding technology, but to improve your processes. So imagine a registration line where they can scan through and get their badge printed quicker. So it's, again, this convenience culture that we live in. So think about these, again, not for the sake of adding it, but really just the way that we live and the convenience factor. Chatbots, artificial intelligence, and, oh, excuse me, just rushing on down my slides here. Chatbots are a really interesting thing to think about too, because it saves staff time. Yes, there's programming involved, but sometimes the questions are the same. Maybe you get the same 10 questions all the time, and you can have a chatbot answering those questions, and imagine all those emails that wouldn't have to get you know, buried, and all the time spent answering those. I love the idea of artificial intelligence as part of our events. I was at a program recently where they had an Amazon Echo station kind of in a cylinder or a glass, plexiglass kind of cube, so you couldn't steal it. And attendees could go up there and say, you know, hey, Alexa, where's the general session? Or something along those lines. I've been to airports where there's robots moving around. This is to say that technology isn't the creme de la creme, the only thing we should be doing at our events and conferences, but it absolutely should be incorporated. And then virtual reality, I know we've been hearing a lot about VR for a long time, but it is worth mentioning here as maybe a bonus or an add-on, thinking about what you could do to help your members experience maybe your website or experience something that you're offering them in a 3D way. And when it comes to even your exhibitors, I think, and maybe some of you have seen it already, if I'm an exhibitor and I offer a product or service, but I can't bring it all with me, you know, we're seeing this virtual reality immersive experience where potential customers coming past and put the VR on and we can move through this immersive experience. And I think it does change the game. And I think it's worth sharing. And I think I'm just going to comment here, Kathy Edwards, thank you so much for sharing. You said augmented reality is popping up too, and it is a learning tool, and I agree with you. Thank you so much. And I do see another question, so I'm going to go ahead and answer it. Have you known about any meetings that blew up their schedules so there were more room to ruminate, discuss what they learned in the previous course, take a minute away from the constant knowledge sharing? It's a really great question. I have seen some conferences doing that. Thank you, Helen. Where it's a little bit more of the unconference experience. You know, sometimes we feel like we need to be so structured and every minute of our conferences and events super programmed. But allowing, and I'll get to this in a little bit about convenience and customization, it's actually my next slide. If I'm an attendee, I want to navigate the experience the way I want to navigate it. So allowing for that open space, I think, is really positive, and creating places for folks to decompress and debrief with, hey, maybe they just heard a great general session and then, oh, there's only 15 minutes, and they go right to the next thing. Well, we don't have time to process it. So have an open room, allow for that white space. I think that's a really great approach. And again, it kind of goes down to this world we live in with customization, and it's connected but different. You know, think about Amazon and Netflix and Stitch Fix and Dollar Shave Club and Birchbox and Blue Apron, and the list goes on and on and on. The subscription models that are out there now make it exceptionally easy for our consumers to access nearly anything they want at the click of a button. I mean, think about that. We can get anything we want. Netflix changed from mailing DVDs to digital access. Amazon was an online bookstore, and now it's an online store for, gosh, everything. And oddly enough, I just saw an Amazon Books brick and mortar store. So they sure have iterated and evolved over the years. That's a great example to take. Associations need to do the same. If we're still offering a static something on our website that isn't serving our members, and we're not offering 24/7 products and services that are downloadable at the click of a button, we're not serving our members in the way that they're living their lives. So we need to remember to kind of take a cue from those big box stores and big companies and corporations that what can we do to make it easier? We need to reduce the barrier of entry for our members, our attendees, and our potential members and attendees, even if it's only one thing at a time, implementing and just trying and being willing to just implement and sometimes even take a risk and see if it doesn't work. But we do need to evolve and iterate. We really do have an opportunity. So for instance, maybe we can offer subscription models. So I log in and I can pick, a potpourri. I pay a certain dollar amount and I get 5 conferences. Or I pay a certain dollar amount and I can download 3 resources, attend a webinar, and I can have a private Q&A coaching session with one of your content leaders. What kind of exclusive offerings can kind of make me feel, one, I'm valued as a member and attendee, but then also really get that buy-in. So I think it's important to think about the convenience, customization, subscription, access components, not only for conferences and events, but certainly for that, but also just in our general membership offering. All right, so food, glorious, glorious food. I live here in the Bay Area where if I didn't go to the farmer's market with my sister on Sunday, I'd probably get in trouble. So, and I don't think that's exclusive to me. We live in a really interesting time where we're trying to be more sustainable and be more responsible with our food and beverage. We're working with organizations, and when we go to destinations, we want to highlight the cities and towns and places that we're going to illuminate what local ingredients are available. We're doing farm to table. We live in an ever health conscious world where we have vegan and keto and Whole30 and gluten-free and plant-based and all of these things. And food is really personal for people. So if we go to a conference and you give them garbage or you just don't give them enough options, it's really aggravating. And I know I've heard from several people who are like, I'm gluten-free. And yes, there's a gluten-free option, but I can't have salad for 4 days. What are some other really nourishing gluten-free options or keto options or vegan options? It does come sometimes with a dollar amount. These more expensive options these more needy options, for lack of a better word, sometimes do come at a cost, but it really doesn't matter. We still need to serve our members. And if we need to find creative sponsorships or other ways of working around it, we need to work around it, because if I'm at a conference and you don't feed me right, I'm grumpy. And it's not going to give me a positive experience and I might not come back. And I love the idea too of experiential food, right? Like I love we have Sunday dinner as a family every Sunday with my sister and my brother-in-law, my parents and my family. And it's, we share and we talk and you kibitz. Well, that is a great community gathering opportunity for your attendees at your conference. We gather around the table. You go to a holiday party at a friend's house and no one leaves the kitchen. Think about this in terms of the food and beverage that you're offering. It's really about self-care. It's about wellness. These are major trends in the association world and in the world we live in. So similarly to health and wellness, meeting space design, we need to make sure that we're offering comfortable seating and diverse room sets. Do you have furniture where people can get cozy in? You see on the image here on the screen, you have beanbag chairs, and it's colorful and bright. But conversely, do you have like a white space room, a Zen den? Here in California, Cal SAE has a Zen den at their conferences and events, and it's just a place to check out, relax, maybe to have some quiet reflection. Maybe you heard a great idea at a session, and now you need a moment to think about it. So think about these kind of opportunities and working with the venues that you bring your events to on what they can offer. We're seeing a trend that venues are getting a lot of requests for make it homey, make it cozy, all these things. And really it's because we need to mix up that comfortable environment to help support connecting and collaborating. And that trend will continue in years to come. And again, unique learning formats. Traditional lecture learning format is exiting stage right. Passive learning is truly a thing of the past. There's this growing trend to move away from that one-way static delivery format. We really need to move to conversations, dialogue, discourse, this real experiential learning. We can incorporate videos and webcasts and multimedia as part of this. It could be wisdom of the crowd, where you throw people into a room and they vote on a topic and they talk about it. Change the room set. So unique learning formats and the meeting design space, the physical space matter. Get people outside. How often do you go to a conference in a beautiful location and you're in a windowless room? Why can't you go and have a fireside chat or a cabana chat? Leverage the location you are in. Content and education and learning can still happen. Happens when I walk my kids to school every day. Questions that they ask just blow my mind, right? We're still talking, we're still learning, we're not sitting in a classroom. So think about that. I think Destiny mentioned at the start of this webinar, but I have an A to Z resource guide for you specifically about unique learning formats. It gives you about 26 ideas of different formats that you could potentially implement. So do consider trying one thing, two things, five things. And really at the heart of all of this is the humanness factor. And I include this because we serve individuals who they are as a whole person. We keep hearing about authenticity and honesty and vulnerability. And I need to pause and say that we all are that way, and our members come to our events this way. They have personal and professional peaks and valleys, and they have their own unique and specific desires, wishes, and aspirations. We must celebrate that diversity and provide a variety of offerings in our conferences and events and our products and services to not just serve the general person, but all the people. This is no small task, and I know it's not impossible, but well, it might seem daunting, but I do know this, that if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance less. So it is important now more than ever to try new things, shake it up a little, take some risks, and see if we can kind of enhance our overall experiences at our conferences and events, because the positive snowball effect of that is you get a member who maybe becomes a lifetime member. You get a first-time attendee who's a repeat attendee. You build loyalty. And just for our organizations, our goals and missions, this is ever important. So take some risks, keep in touch with me. You see here my contact information. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I will pause now and open it up for questions.
Megan, it looks like we had a question come in from Yvonne. Any suggestions for those on a budget?
That's a fantastic question. And I know that can be a hard one to answer sometimes because we have small organizations. And I hate to say, oh, just go to that sponsorship reel and see if you can get to bring in on the sponsorship side of things. But I do challenge you to think of other creative ways that you can do things. You have great volunteers. I was at an event not too long ago where they incorporated some kind of quick networking where when I registered, I got my badge and a Scrabble piece and everyone got the same thing. And then for 30 minutes, the goal was to find someone, a whole group of people really, and make the longest, highest point Scrabble word. It was really simple. It was low impact, low cost, or excuse me, high impact, low cost. And then the team that got the most points got like a $10 gift card for something. So there are some less expensive options to kind of to make that experiential element fun, especially if you're at a venue or a location that is beautiful. There's nothing to say, hey, we're just going to meet at Cabana A and talk. That's really low cost. I do think sometimes collaborating and partnering with different sponsors can help, especially if you can get creative and design it together. But I think if you explore, especially in that guide I shared, there are some lower cost, high impact opportunities out there. Are there any other questions?
Let's see. I don't see any coming in just yet. Make sure you can still type those in. I have a question for you. What are some tactics to get buy-in for implementing new things?
And thank you so much. That's a great question. It's a hard one too, right? Because sometimes we're creatures of habit, and you have boards and volunteers, or maybe you have someone that you report to that just doesn't see the value in challenging and changing and evolving. And I think providing some statistics on what's happening out there and what trends are out there will help. You have to kind of show the justification for why. We're not just doing this just for the sake of doing it. Here's the potential impact and here's the potential positive ROI for the member and the attendee, yes, but ultimately really for the organization. And I kind of mentioned it a couple of times. You probably could assign a dollar amount to it in the sense of, okay, if we do this thing for $1,000, and yet we get a member who becomes a lifetime member, look at that dollar amount over the next 3 years even. And of course, it's hard to pull those exact correlations, and we can do surveys and try to ask those questions and kind of cross-tabulate all those things. It's kind of complicated. But if we say, hey, here's the dollar amount we're putting into it, and here's the potential impact on the other side, I think that helps a lot.
Thank you. It looks like Emily Hendershot asks, what's one of one of your favorite experiences / new trends that you've implemented recently?
Oh man. Oh, that is such a great question. I should have had that already in my back pocket. I think what just because it was the most recent event that I went to, I was part of ASAE's XDP. And one of the things I thought that was really interesting was the surprise element they added at the end. So they had a 2-day conference, and at the end of the expo hall, to help keep people there, they said, you're not going to want to leave for this surprise ending. And they had a surprise ending at the end that they literally didn't reveal. Like, you knew where to be and when, and you didn't know what was going to happen. And again, kind of back to your question earlier as well, these two are linked. You know, what's a low cost thing on a budget? Having a surprise element. You know, what if you have a talented member amongst you who is a guitar singer and they just come out and sing a ditty, or you have an artist in your mix? Think about how to tap into your own resources. But I do like the idea of not giving it all away and having some surprise elements as part of your event.
Very cool. I actually planned an event where I had to keep a train ride secret from all of the attendees, because that's how we ended the event, was with this train ride, and there's cocktails and desserts, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It looks like we have
the ultimate reveal.
Yes, I know. And I was like, okay, gotta keep this secret. It was tough, but I'm like, I can't ruin this. We have one more question that has come in, and it's from Dawn Bosch. Odd question, but how common is it to sing the national anthem at an annual meeting?
You know, that is a wonderful question. I've had the chance to work with a variety of organizations, and I've only seen it happen twice. One was at an educational conference, which I think is interesting too, like doing the Pledge of Allegiance and singing. And one was at kind of a road and safety one where, for lack of a better word, was kind of like old school Americana. And those are the only 2 times I've ever seen it happen. And so I think a lot of times it's kind of rooted in the organization's history. I think now it's kind of, I'll just say it, I think it's a controversial topic just because of all the things that we're seeing in the media and in sports and across the board. And I think if we're going to make people feel uncomfortable or make somebody in the crowd feel like they're being alienated and we're not being inclusive, we need to pay special attention to that. And I think something that's patriotic, especially in the United States, where we represent so many different cultures and countries and backgrounds, I would hesitate on offering that up, as it may make folks feel uncomfortable. That would be my suggestion. It doesn't really answer your specific question, but I've only seen it happen twice, and I've been in the meeting space for 15 years. So whatever that statistic looks like.